guys. Hi. Really exciting to be out here. Let's start on this presentation, shall we? So the countdown can begin now. It's really ominous, even though it's green. So today we're going to talk about the 3 rules of free book marketing. I know that there are going to be presentations over the next couple of days that are going to talk about advertising, are going to talk about spending a lot of money, and I know it's a $99 conference, so we don't all necessarily want to spend a lot of money, and so we're going to talk about free things. So do you like free things? Yeah. All right, good. I'm so glad. So we're going to talk about using your skills, your characters, and your storytelling abilities, which we all have, to sell more of your books. So I know Craig just said something about not using your cell phone, so everybody get out your cell phones or your computers, because we are going to have a little activity in a second. Here's what we're going to cover today during the presentation, during the 50 and 49 and counting minute presentation. We're going to talk about a few activities. We're going to do them. This is going to be a little more interactive, so I hope you've warmed up your carpal tunnel-y wrists and everything. It's not going to be that crazy. We're going to talk about kind of these 3 action steps that you can take. There are presentations like that I've even given that are information overload. I'm trying to boil things down today because I do not want you guys to have to remember 70 things from my presentation. I want you to remember 3 or 4 things, and so hopefully that'll make it a little easier. Maybe it'll make me stand out. I don't know. That'd be cool. Are there like reviews people have to give at the end of the conference? Cool. Think of me. That's all I gotta say. So, and then we're gonna have a live marketing demo. This is gonna be kind of like my cooking show-esque thing that we're gonna have at the end. So that'll be very exciting. So stay tuned for that. Activity number 1. So I would like you guys on your web-enabled devices to go to freemarketingrules.com right now. I know you might not all be able to go through on the internet at once, but I'm trying it. Like, I'm really hoping for it. Some of you use your 4G, please, just to spare the other Wi-Fi people. And if everything works well in technology, you're going to be redirected to a Facebook post. Did that happen? Right. And if it didn't happen, keep trying. You're going to get there. So this is a Facebook post that we're going to use for a couple of activities. So that was 2 minutes. In the comments for this Facebook post, I would like you to add an idea. So this idea should be something that you could do for the author community. You could do for just maybe one other author. This could be like, I want to do a multi-author giveaway for authors in my genre. It could be anything related to services, anthologies, whatever. Just first idea that comes to your head, type it in the comment section, and then I will know that you are finished when you look up at me. So just one idea. This is like, 5th grade. It's like heads down, heads up. So type in one idea of something you could do for even just one other author or a bunch of authors. So type that idea in, and I see some heads up. I see still people with something. It can just be really short. It does not have to be anything crazy. All right. Really, Jamie, we should have queued up the Jeopardy music. That would have been so cool. I wasn't thinking. But all right, I see a good amount of heads up, and there will probably be lots of people posting on this, so expect some notifications. Okay. Activity number 2, we're talking about character grounding. So I want you to think about one of your books. It could be your most popular book. If you haven't written a book, it could be a work in progress or an idea for a book that you have. And I want you to think about the protagonist. I want you to write one sentence that shows where your main character is at the beginning of your story. Where they are in their lives, what they're dealing with. This is a silly example, but Harry Potter has just found out his whole world is a lie. So you could do something along those lines. I don't think that's what the publisher ended up going with for the book description, but they didn't hire me, so. Write one sentence, past or present tense, where your character is kind of right at the top of your story. And I will tell you, if you don't participate in this, you don't get to participate in something later on in the presentation, so you better do it. Like, even write it down on a sheet of paper if you can't get through to the Facebook post. And then when you've posted that sentence, I want you to look up at me so that I know you have done it. It can be short declarative sentence, not too many clauses. Just get it in there and get it in. So, how many notifications are people getting, by the way? Is it pretty nutty, or? Okay, I don't know. People are too focused. I appreciate your focus. All right, see some heads up. Cool. Let's move on to the third and final Facebook post activity. So this is your best story. I want you to ignore all the notifications that you're getting. Just ignore them. Just pretend they aren't happening. Turn off your brain that responds to little stimuli like that. And we are going to, in one sentence, I want you to begin one of your best personal stories. This is like the story you told your spouse the first time you met them, you tell on a first date, you tell to try to get out of a speeding ticket. So here's an example. In 2011, I flew into New York to film an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? So that's a true story. I'll tell you how much I won later. But whatever the first line of that story would be, just type it in there, write it in, and I would like it to be a story about you. So not like, oh, my friend Bob did this thing. Like, make it about you, make it personal. And it can be a negative one if you can't think of any cool, positive ones. And then when you finish it, look up at me. So I've never done this before. I don't know if this is like an absolute shit show right now or not. I totally don't know. I have no perception of whether or not it is. I assume it's like 20% shit show, 80% fine. So, all right. And when you're done, just look up at me or at the screen if you're not like an eye contact person. All right. Cool. I'm going to assume you guys are done. So you may be asking, Bryan, what the hell was that? What are you doing? Did you do this to win a bet with like Anderley or Chris Fox? Are you really this short in person? Like, the answer is yes. I mean, you can see me. I'm right here. So, but don't worry, because all of your questions will be answered. I'm realizing you guys can't see me over here. Now you can see how short I am. Okay, cool. So, I heard you whispering over there. All right, so let's move on. How can you market your books for free? So, there are a couple of different things you already have in your arsenal that you can use to promote your books that aren't necessarily through advertising, aren't necessarily through paid means. So you can use your skills. You have certain things that you've learned through school, through things that you're naturally talented at, through things that you just plain like doing. Your skills, the things that you would, if you had a multiple choice of which marketing activities you could do, and one was kind of related to something you'd like to do, you're going to pick that one because you feel some aptitude for it. You can use your characters. Now, we don't necessarily think of our characters as being something that we use outside of the pages of our book, but we absolutely can use characters to sell. If we are going to be using advertising, if we're going to be using book descriptions, we're going to talk about these characters and the way we portray these characters, the way that we allow readers to connect with our characters. That is going to be a way that we can actually market our book. So if you have some incredible characters in your book, you can actually use this to your advantage when you're marketing. It doesn't have to be this question of, well, what the heck am I supposed to do to sell my books? Your book can sell itself, but you kind of have to bring that out of it a little bit. And I'm going to explain that because I know that's kind of vague. And then you can use your storytelling abilities. This kind of goes back to the character thing. You have this ability, you have this strength to create stories. And you can use that to write awesome books. You can use that to write 25,000 words per hour of awesome books. You can. You can. But you can. It's been proven. So, if you have the ability to tell a story, you don't just have to use it for your books. You can also use it for your marketing. And we're going to get into exactly how. I think I've given this side of the room a little bit of short guy. So, let's talk about how I've used my skills and how I feel as though it's helped my career a little bit so you get kind of a better idea. So, when I kind of left college, the things I had going for me were I liked organizing things, type A, liked controlling things, producing things, and as a performer did improv comedy, studied dramatic art, because I guess that's what you call it when you don't want to call it theater, and that was kind of my background that I had going for me. Now, when I started writing books in 2010, I knew that what I would have to do, because I didn't have any money, I think I had just stopped working at Starbucks, and so no money, what would I do? How could I leverage what I already had? And so I decided, well, why don't I try to use these skills that I've gained over the years? And so I started organizing these multi-author Facebook events. I believe my first one was in 2013 or 2014. I started basically cold emailing other authors to see if they'd be willing to join in an event with me. And so the first set of these I did was for authors, so it was nonfiction, for authors kind of books. But I have since done this for fiction as well. And so this was a good use of my skills. I was able to gather together people, keep organized, keep the emails together, deal with all of that, and get those folks in the same place at the same time, inviting their own readers to the event, and then as a result, the many hands makes light work, lots of people coming together, and every reader who came there was able to find out about other authors who write nonfiction for authors. And so organizing that thing was really my superpower, if you will, was one of the things that I was able to control and wield for that. But also the performing side of things, and this kind of came from one of the contacts at that event, is that I met up with Jim Kukral after I told him, no, you can't do this event, I already created the artwork. But I friended him on Facebook, as you do people that you reject. And so I saw that he had posted, hey, I want to do a podcast. And I said, I'm a former performer. I could definitely do a podcast. I would feel comfortable doing that. And so I connected with Jim. I said, hey, don't remember the part where I rejected you, but hey, you want to do a podcast? And we talked. We started the Somewhere Book Show. How many Somewhere Book Show listeners are out there? Awesome. Cool. Thank you for the whoop. And so we started that. And one of the reasons I think that it was successful was because I had that skill set. It was because I was a performer, so I could do a podcast. And so when you're thinking about your own skills, you need to think about, well, what is it that I can bring to the table? What is it that I can use from my past, from my present, that is going to help me market my books? So doing this sort of stuff did really help me a ton. It created a lot of great relationships with folks like Joanna Penn, Steve Scott, Mark Dawson, Mike and Craig, and all the LMVPN folks. And that's the kind of thing that can happen when you start something using your skills. That opportunity is there. And so Summer Book Show has gotten over 500,000 listens. So if you haven't listened to it, you're totally missing out. So you should really subscribe to it. So that was using my skills. Now, using my characters. This is something that I didn't really understand for a long time. I had done a lot of copywriting for freelance magazines and whatnot, but I didn't understand, well, how can I use my book to sell itself through copywriting? And so when I took my books and found that kind of formula that worked best for me, that kind of 200 to 300 word book description, I started with my characters, because when you are trying to get people who don't know who the heck you are to care about your book, they're not going to care necessarily about bombs or tech mages or, strange historical facts. They're going to care about your characters. Now, people who like reading books about tech mages and historical things, they're going to want to know that your character is involved in all of that. But if your character is someone they can connect with, someone that they either feel some kind of like they're similar to that character, or they feel like this is somebody I know, they're going to feel like, okay, I want to know what happens to this character. And then, once you have established that character, they care more about reading the rest of your description. They care more about actually wanting to go and buy your book, because they say, well, I want to know what happens to this character. And so in 200 to 300 words, you can really do that. So I start by establishing the character, and then I leave it in that cliffhanger. I say, well, this character might die, or this character and this character might not get together if it's romance, or this character might not defuse the bomb. So when you start with a character and kind of work your way through the plot in how it affects that character that the reader has hopefully connected with, they want to read the book to find out what happens. Wait, is he going to defuse the bomb? Is he going to get together with the love of his life? What's going to happen? And it's that question in a reader's mind that makes them click the buy button. So we want to go with character first and work our way through that way. So, what did I write here? So, the brag bullet point. So, this has contributed to me selling 100,000 books and connecting with a lot of awesome readers, because I've been able to effectively get people to care about my characters enough to buy it, download it on KU, flip through the pages real quick, give me the money. And that's the dream anyway. But I have been fortunate enough to be able to connect with so many awesome readers, and I think a huge part of it is having characters that they can relate to, not just in the book, but in the book description. So you can use those characters that you have to do the same. So, the last part, storytelling. So when readers join your email list, you have a couple of opportunities there. Obviously, you can give them freebies. Obviously, you can do all sorts of giveaways and whatnot. But one thing I think is important is telling that story, is telling stories, I don't think I did, telling stories from your life that can connect with your readers. And so, I like to tell stories about the first book I ever wrote and why it meant a lot to me. I like to tell stories about some of the hardest things I've had to deal with as a creative person. I like to tell stories like that. The good ones, the bad ones, the ugly ones. But then I also like to ask questions. I like to kind of solicit, well, have you had something like this happen in your life? Or what's the thing you're the most proud of in the world? And the responses I get from these are really cool, because it's not just, hey, there's readers out there. They're not just reading my email and then stopping and then never talking to me again. They are actually reading the email, connecting with the email, and then answering the question based off of the email. And so that shows me that people are connected, and it's a two-way connection. Because when they have read it and respond with an answer, then I'm able to respond to that answer. And so it really starts a dialogue. And this is the kind of thing that starts that know, like, and trust factor. The thing we're always talking about, having our readers want to actually buy our stuff. This is one of the ways to do it, by telling stories like we know how to do. And so, brag, this is how one of the really great ways that I've been able to collect over 30,000 email subscribers, sustain a six-figure business. If I hadn't made the effort to reach out to people and to share embarrassing stuff or painful things with my readers, then it wouldn't have happened. So I definitely, this is the scary part. You thought, oh, well, I'm just going to write fictional things and I never have to deal with my demons. I like dealing with my demons in my emails. Because then people say, whoa, that guy's kind of screwed up, but I am too. So it works out for everybody. So I definitely want you to consider that as one of your options, as part of your artillery. Artillery, whatever. I didn't even write that there, and I looked on the slide as if it would help me. So, with skills, character, and storytelling, some of you have probably seen some of my webinars. I like to refer to this as networking, copy, and funnel. These are some of the principles that I think are important for building your network of fellow authors, of writing strong copy that is going to increase your conversion. I know that Dave and Scott were talking about that a little bit. Bryan Meeks is going to go probably really deep into the conversion. Well, this is one of the ways that you can increase the percentage of people who visit your Amazon sales page or wherever sales page and actually click the buy button. Increasing that percentage is all about making your copy better, and characters, having a strong sense of character in your blurb is one of the best ways to do that. So I like to call these the selling trilogy because, you need a name for stuff, and that's kind of fun. So I think of this as kind of the weapons you can wield that will not necessarily cost money, but you can tweak them forever, you can change them, you can work on them, and you can get significantly better at them over time. So I want to give you guys, like I said, not 70 things to remember, 3 simple rules that you can follow that are going to help you, hopefully, to achieve some of the same things and surpass me, as many people in this room have. So, rule number 1, be a creator, not a follower. We're going to hear a lot of tips over the next couple of days, and there's going to be a lot of best practices, things you're supposed to do, and you should obviously try everything. You should work on the things that people know are working. But you should also create things. You should also come up with your own ideas. You should also experiment. One of my favorite examples of this is Jay Thorne, a horror author, who back in the dinosaur age of self-publishing, 2012, 2013, when there wasn't Vellum and Juto and all these great formatting programs, you had to use a little bit of HTML sometimes. And Jay said, well, I know that it's a pain in the butt to make these books, especially when you combine a box set. Oh, good, the eagle has landed out there. So watch for him. He's flying. So when Jay said, look, I'm going to try to put together a box set of a bunch of horror authors, and no one else wants to do the formatting. No one else wants to handle the payment stuff. No one else wants to do all the nitty-gritty. I mean, you know that you're a creator when you're doing something that no one else really wants to do. Because that's kind of the motto. I will do things that people don't want to do. And so Jay put together these books, and they sold extremely well. They were some of the first real indie box sets with that genre, and they were in the top 5,000 for months and months and months, and propelled into being a top 100 horror author. Folks bought his other books, and it really helped him to build up a readership. But we've also got, the cool kids of Michael and Craig and everybody. They created a badass universe. Most people in this room would probably say, that sounds crazy. Why the hell would I sit down, connect with all these other authors, do all this insanity, build a publishing company, release 14 books in a day or month or week, who knows? Yeah. 14 a day. I think you can get there. Yeah, hashtag goals. So you need to think about, well, what can I do to create? What can I do that utilizes my skills that I can do to create something that is going to connect me with other authors, that is going to connect me with readers? What can I do? Do the best practices stuff. But remember, at some point, if you want to be as successful as the most successful people in this room, it's probably not going to be from being a follower. It's probably going to be from being a creator. Woo, I don't remember what I said. What's the wise feed? No. Okay. If you want to be as successful as some of the most successful people in this room, it's probably not going to be from being a follower. It's going to be from becoming a creator.
Amen.
Woo! Thank you. I guess when I'm on stage, I don't need to woo too. It's just this feeling from deep down that it needs to happen. So, rule number 2, start and end with character. I feel like we've kind of already gone over this, but when you are creating a book description, when you're creating an ad, there's all these different philosophies behind it, but I think one of the most important things is you need to have a compelling character. From the beginning, where did this character start, all the way to the end, how the hell is the character going to get out of this situation? And if you do this, if you make sure that you're not just saying what plot is happening, where they're going, this kind of series list of all the things they're supposed to deal with, if you go through it more from the character's perspective than through just, here's a plot thing, here's a plot thing, if you go through it as the character, dealing with all of these things, then you are going to make sure that readers actually care enough to click through, to continue on to the series. If you think about some of the most successful book series of all time, we've already talked about, I think Harry Potter always is going to get mentioned. People love Harry and Hermione. They don't necessarily care how they collected the Horcruxes. Like, is that what people were talking about? No, they're like, oh man, there was a dream where Harry and Hermione kissed. Like, I mean, that's what people talked about. It wasn't about the plot. It's about the characters. And if you can focus on the characters too, you're going to be in better shape. And, have a character in a bag, because that's kind of fun. So, rule number 3, share the real you with your readers. So, from left to right, this is me as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a very egotistical character in the play North Pole Darkening. I was thought of as the most egotistical senior in my college class, and so I was cast immediately. This is me in a cockroach costume. My wife went as a fly. We were adorably cute. I like cooking for people, and this is me with my best friend, Kristen Bell. So, I didn't hear the last one. I know. Not my best friend, so that's not the real me. I'm faking, I'm breaking my own rule a little bit. That was from when my wife and I paid money to hug Kristen Bell by going to the Veronica Mars premiere. But this is the kind of thing, whether through pictures or through just your email copy, you're going to tell who you really are to your readers. Now, if you have a pen name, and I know we have a lot of pen names here, that doesn't mean you can't say, well, this pen name's history happens to have a few stories that are the same as mine. That's fine. Like, you already lied about your name. You might as well lie that some true things happen. Like, go for it. So, incorporate some real-life stories into your author name, your pen name, whatever, because these are the things that are going to get readers to care about you. These are the things that are going to get the readers. I recently relaunched a series, and it had been 2 years since I'd written between books 5 and book 6. And I knew the people that I had connected with the most, the people who had responded to my questions, the people who had read my emails. These were the people who 2 years later posted the first reviews on book 6. These were the people that bought the pre-order of the book that was 2 years in the making. So if you connect with more and more of these kind of people who are willing to wait 2 years but probably don't do that because it's a bad idea. If you connect with more of them through your storytelling abilities, you are going to have a much better shot of building a readership that cares, building a readership that goes and buys your books. So, we have one more activity for the presentation, and this is going to be fun or terrifying. It really depends on who you are. So, everybody raise one hand, please. All right. So, I want you to lower your hand if you have 6 or more books published, or if you have 0 books published. Sorry. That was a lot. So, if you have between 1 and 5 books published, your hand may stay up. I know, it's bad double negative sum. All right, if you make over $1,000 a month from your publishing, lower your hand. So, over 1,000, down. Yeah, that seemed to work better. Okay. Lower it if you write in a genre other than fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, or romance. So if you write in fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, or romance, you may keep your hand in the air. Awesome. And if you are in the first 4 rows, keep your hands up. Everybody else, hiding, running away, you're not allowed to keep your hand up. I see a hand up back there. Get it down. Okay. So, lower it if you have crippling stage fright. All right. Cool. We still have a few hands up. That's a good thing. All right. Everybody who still has their hand up, can you stand up, please? Because I need to count you off, and I have bad vision. So, awesome. Cool. So we're going to start with the left side of the room. We'll see how far this clicker goes. All right. I'm going to start with 1. And we're going to go in sequential order from left to right. So I'm going to point at you, you say your number, and please remember your number.
1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
All right, cool. Good work. You can sit down. Good counting, everybody. So this is, too nice, live demo time. So this is very exciting. We're going to get out of this and see if it totally screws up the computer. We're going to go to random. We got to 16 or 15 it was, right? Random.org is my favorite number counter. We're going to put in 15 here so you don't think I'm cheating. Who is number 11? Come up here. Hello. Yeah, nice to meet you. Please introduce yourself.
Gosh, there are a lot of people here.
I know, right?
This is terrifying.
It's scary up here.
My name is Emma Savant. That name is a lie because my real name is Crazy. And I write young adult urban fantasy. My book is the Glimmers series.
Nice. You know how to introduce yourself. That's like absolutely the right way to introduce yourself. So take a seat. We're gonna look and we'll sit. We'll rap a little bit. So
I'm on Oprah.
I know. But then you guys can't see me in that row. I'll just stand up here. You sit. I was thinking it's spatial reasoning. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I want to go over the 3 things that you put down, essentially, in your activity.
Okay.
And we are going to kind of deconstruct and see, are these good things? Is this something that you can improve your networking, improve your blurb, improve your funnel? Yeah, that was the 3rd thing. And we'll kind of go from there. Does that sound good, Emma?
Let's do it.
Awesome, cool. So, I'll do this. Then you can kind of see me, but I can kind of rest. So, what did you put as your networking act, or the thing you could do to help authors or the author community?
So my thing was to put together some kind of box set or author takeover or something that would bring together young adult authors whose books are not focused on romance.
Nice.
I don't have strong romantic elements.
Okay.
Rather, I write fantasy, and I have a lot of readers who comment that they love that my character doesn't end up with the guy at the end.
Nice, I like that. Yeah, let's give her a round of applause for that. Awesome. So, I like that. I think that it has a strong theme. I think that it's the kind of thing that, you got some hollers, so I think it's some people that would take advantage of it. So, if you would be interested in a box set like this, raise your hand. Awesome, I see some hands. So, how can people find you online?
If you just go to emmasavant.com, it's spelled exactly like you think, EMMASAVANT. Go click in the top corner and hit contact me, and you'll be able to reach me. I'm also on Facebook. Just Google the name, and I'll come up in a million places.
Awesome. So everyone who raised their hand, if you're okay with actually putting this thing together, are you guys who, raise your hand again if you raised your hand. Are you guys all cool? Verbal confirmation to email Emma? I need a hearing to hear some more verbal confirmation. Okay, good. You can even do it now. Don't pay attention to me. It's totally fine. So that's awesome. And I think that there are definitely a lot of different things you can do. Like you said, a box set or a takeover or something. Now, I think with the box set, there's a lot of nice opportunities there. Because everyone feels like, okay, I'm going to get a chunk of the money, so I will participate, versus just a takeover, just something like that, where people are like, I'll show up for 10 minutes, but I'm also going to be like watching my kid, or like writing a book, or editing something. If it's something where people have like skin in the game, they feel like they're putting themselves out there, I think that's a good way to network. So, awesome, cool. You now have like 7 new best friends.
All right, hit me up.
Awesome, cool. So, let's go look at your author page here. Alright. This is where my spelling comes in. Is this work? Is this right? Emma Savant? I know. That's the problem. Like, I couldn't see this.
That's me.
Alright. So, Glimmers of Glass.
Yep, first one.
Awesome. Cool. Really pretty covers.
Thank you, I made them myself.
Nice. Good work. It's really actually all about you.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm feeling very loved here. Thank
Good.
you.
Yes, well, you should. So, would I be right that Glimmers of Glass is kind of the big focus, since it's the first entry point into that series? All right. Great. So let's take a look at your book description. All right. I'll go to the Kindle version.
Rip it apart, guys.
All right. Read more. Come on. All right. All right. Cool. So, if you can't read the first line, I'll just say, hidden in the city of Portland, Oregon, is a shimmering world of magic. One fairy, Olivia Faye, doesn't want to touch with a 10-foot wand. All right. Cool. I love that your main character is mentioned in the first sentence. That's good. Some people don't do that, and I think, obviously, this whole presentation, characters should be a part of the beginning. Now, I like that you've set things. I like that you have given her like some sass here, because she doesn't want to touch it with a 10-foot wand. That's funny. That's good. I think you could potentially even have a sentence before this. I think you could maybe split this a little bit to really focus on Olivia right from the beginning, because we've got the magical world as first. But, how many people, raise your hand if you have a magical world in your book. So you have to contend with all those magical worlds. But if you have this badass fairy from the beginning, and don't raise your hands if you have a badass fairy. But if you have a fairy character who is definitely yours, and people can relate to them right away. I love the sass from her right in the beginning. I think that's going to be really helpful to you getting people to care from the beginning. So let's keep going. So I'm a big fan. This is blurb stuff more than anything. So I'm a big fan of, one piece of advice I give people is, the first time you write a blurb, try writing it with 1 comma in each sentence. Otherwise, and we all have this tendency to pack lots of ideas. It's like, oh, I only have 2 sentences here. I better throw in 50 ideas. And so this is a little meaty, but I do like the continuation of the sass here, which she'd rather study biology or garden or floss her teeth or do literally anything except pay attention to the glimmering world. Always the read out loud kind of cues in, like, and her internship in Portland Premier Fairy Godparent Agency. So then we get into what she's dealing with, and this won't be easy. How much is she willing to sacrifice for her own happy ending? So I skipped a little, obviously, because we only have 10 minutes left. But I like that you're ending with what she's dealing with. That's what's important. I think the real thing with this, because once you get Olivia into that first sentence, I think what is going to help here is really focusing on her throughout and keeping the sentences. You can have some short and some long. We all have a tendency to write long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, because, God, when is this blurb going to be over? I just want to finish it and hit publish. And so we have a tendency to write long sentences because of that. So if you kind of break up the rhythm a little bit, I think that is going to help. Already this is in pretty good shape. It's just a matter of bringing Olivia, I think, more to the forefront. So let's give a round of applause we need for her really doing that. I just think you deserve multiple rounds of applause.
Cool.
So, yeah. So we'll go back to get out of this. We're going to bring the PowerPoint back up. I'm going to do this thing. Or no, that's not what I wanted to do. Right. Sorry, guys. It was really the countdown clock. That's what got me. I swear. All right. No, that's me projecting. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. So the last thing, we can sit again. We can wrap more. You guys just can't see me right there. I could be doing anything. All right. So, what did you put for your best story in the Facebook comments?
Is that number 3?
That was
my
number
personal
3.
story? Okay, my first line is, I was a 3rd grade dropout.
Ooh, that's really good.
Intriguing, isn't it?
So here's the question. Is that story in any of your emails?
No.
Okay. So what we would want to do if we have a nice personal story like that, such a great hook. I mean, you're good at writing hooks. You got to put those in all of your book descriptions. But they should all be about 3rd grade dropouts. But we want to find some way to bridge the gap between that story and talking about something related to your books. So can you, just off the top of your head, think of any way that you could connect that to either that series or any of the books that you've worked on?
Yeah, I mean, I could connect it to, I think, pretty easily. So I was a 3rd grade dropout. This is because I was homeschooled. I got pulled out of school when I was in 3rd grade because I was developing all sorts of anxiety issues. And my mom took me home, and my therapist said, you know what, just pull her out of school for a year, it'll be fine. And the first day, I went to the library, got 27 books, read them all by the next day, and my mom said, we should explore homeschooling. And so consequently, I developed a very strong, opinionated, I didn't have a lot of social pressures from other kids my age, and so I always kind of knew what I wanted to do. And all of my characters are like that too. They all know who they are, what they want, and they're not really in the mood to have other people telling them who they should be.
Awesome. That's cool. So, how many people out there, honestly, after hearing that story and connecting to her characters, are intrigued to at least check out more? Awesome. So that's the kind of thing. You need, I love that this story is so personal. It's, when anything's from a young age, of course, it's going to hit a lot of people. And then having the fact that that's connected to the headstrong characters is so great. And it goes back to character, which is fantastic from the beginning. So I think that your homework, because I'm just going to give you homework, yeah, is to write that email. Is to make that part of your sequence. I would say it's a really nice introduction to either a lead magnet in a first or a second email, or kind of just an email to introduce the rest of the series. I like to do kind of a 7-email sequence, and email number 4 in my sequence is kind of, hey, you can go buy other books by me. That would be such a fun story either in the beginning of a sequence or in introducing the rest of the series, because you said a lot of your characters are like that. So, awesome. That's your homework.
That's awesome. I will do that.
Cool. Awesome. You are done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Awesome. So, that was really cool. Another round of applause for him, because that was you didn't have anxiety issues before. So, let's recap things. Rule number 1, be a creator, not a follower. You want to create the box set. You want to make a universe. You want to make something happen using your skills, using what you are good at, what you like doing. So remember to do that, and remember, that's how you get to be one of the top 10% folks in this room. I would imagine everybody in that list has been a creator at some point. Rule number 2 is for this side. So, rule number 2, always start and end with character. From the beginning of your blurb to the end of your blurb, you want to make sure that people can connect with your characters. And if you happen to have a cool story that connects to your characters in your emails, do that. Because the more they invest in your characters, the more they are going to want to read your books. Number 3 is back to this set. Share the real you with your readers. Share those stories from your childhood. Share those things that you have trouble sharing even with the people you care about. And you should care about your readers too, but you know. So share those stories. Be willing to feel a little uncomfortable, because when you open up, that is when readers start to open up to you. And that's the kind of relationship you want to have with at least some of your readers, because these maybe are the people who are going to review your books. Maybe these are the people who are going to buy everything you put out for the rest of time. You don't know. Maybe they'll respond to a question and they won't care. But you've got to make the effort. This is something you have to do. And if you are low on the budget side of things, you have to use everything in your repertoire you can to sell these books. And that is these 3 things. Those aren't the only things, but you know, they're pretty good. So here's some action steps I want you to take. I demand it. Remember, at some point, go back to freemarketingrules.com. Feel free to friend request some of the other commenters, because they're also here in this room. So you probably at least will have connected with them at some point, even if it's an awkward glance. So feel free to friend them. That's friend criteria on Facebook, awkward glance. I want you, seriously, you can do this right now. You should do this right now. Get your calendar app out or your planner, and I want you to plan 3 one-hour sessions at some point in the next couple of weeks. Unless you're from LMVPN and all hours are spoken for. So, schedule 3 sessions. 1, I would like to be focusing on the networking, focusing on the thing you can use your skills to do to help other people. 2nd, writing that character-focused blurb. Give yourself an hour to work on that. At least start working on it and see where you can get with that. And then 1 for writing 1 or more story-focused email. How many people have added at least 1 of these hours since I just said this? Okay, what the hell are you doing? Add the hours! Add the hours! I'm gonna just stay on stage, won't let myself come down until at least 40 people schedule the damn hours. Because if you come to this conference and don't do anything, it's gonna be a waste of time! Thank you! Alright. And go to your podcast app of choice and search for the Sell More Books Show and subscribe to my podcast. It's really, really, really good. And if you like conferences, someone drum roll. Coming May 4th through 6th to Chicago, the Sell More Books Show Summit. What was it? Yes, that is Project Cinderella for anyone who listened to this week's show. We're doing a conference. It's going to feature Jay Thorne, Zach Bohannon, Jim Kukral, myself, and more. We have some other tentative speakers like Chris Fox and Brian Meeks. They're maybes right now. And so if you like this conference, we're going to put together an awesome one. If you like Chicago, come on out, and we'll announce more details soon. But just so you know, there will be a payment plan, so you don't need to throw down like a whole lump sum right away, because that is some crazy shit sometimes. So, learn more, go to selling. I'm going to come in right at 1 second. This is cool. Sellingforauthors.com if you want to get some free videos. If you would like to, if you think I'm funny and could write good book descriptions for you, you can get a $20 discount on the book description business I have, Best Page Forward. So that's at bestpageforward.net/blurbs. Use the code 20Books and you will get 10% off your order. You get $20 off your order. And you can listen to me every week at sellmorebookshow.com. I'm not as crass on the show, just so you know. I hate you. Unsubscribe. So thank you so much for listening and learning. I really appreciate it.
Alrighty then.